Welcome into the Browns Report. I'm Matthew Peterson. Before we dive into today's Week 2 recap with a nice 31-21 win over the Texans, go ahead in the comments and let me know what you thought of the Browns' performance against Houston. Give an A, B, C, D, or F. I'm going to give them a B+. Plenty of things you can improve on, but if you win by 10 in the NFL, never a bad day at the office. But let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Welcome into the Browns Report. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson, and Cleveland is 1-1. They are on the win column after picking up their first win of the season in front of their home fans at First Energy Stadium in their first home game of the season. Virtue a 31-21 victory over the Texans. Let's check out some of the stats from this one. Baker Mayfield, we'll talk about him in much more depth, but 19 for 21, just pinpoint accuracy. A modest 213 yards. Didn't need to air it out, though. One touchdown and an interception. Nick Chubb continues to be old reliable for someone who's just not old. 11 carries, churning out 95 yards and a score. And then Harrison Bryant, third tight end on the depth chart, having a pretty good Sunday for himself, leading the team with 4 receptions and 49 yards. And then as for the Houston Texans, it was just not a strong day for them overall. 21 points, not super bad, but you went through a couple injuries like the quarterback TYROD Taylor. But first things first, Baker Mayfield went down with an injury in the first half, looked decently scary, looked like it could be anything from a broken collarbone to a dislocated shoulder. Wasn't really sure, but the man is tough, okay? Exited the game for a moment just to get his cape and entered again after being what looked like he'd be out for the whole game, but he was just Baker tough, okay? He's Cleveland tough. He's gritty, tough as nails. He looks like someone that could make the cast of 300 look soft, okay? Baker has yet to miss a start in the NFL since he took over from who else but TYROD Taylor back in 2018, and he did not want to miss a start or a snap today. Just out for a couple of plays, but re-entered the game. But it is worth noting, he's definitely got something going on in that shoulder, left shoulder injury, so thankfully not his throwing shoulder, but still not what you want to see. We'll monitor that throughout the week and get a better report probably come Tuesday after the Browns' day off tomorrow. All right, other injury news, though. This is a tough one right here. The Browns were already shorthanded at wide receiver, and they're going to get a little shorter after Jarvis Landry went down early in the game with a knee injury. Left, did not return. That's because he suffered an MCL sprain. Not really sure how long he will be out for. This is not the kind of 1 to 2 week injury, though. This one could be a handful of weeks. And this is tough because the Browns were already missing Odell Beckham Jr., who they hope to get back soon after that ACL tear last year. But look at the upcoming schedule for Cleveland. They're going to take on the Chicago Bears next week at home. That's a Bears secondary that's pretty vulnerable. Then they'll travel to Minnesota and the Chargers after that. I just don't see Landry getting back in time for one of those games. Maybe the Cardinals or the Broncos. It's one of those situations where right now you probably wish that you had a bye week earlier on so you can get everyone fully healthy for the last half of the season, but not the case. So we'll keep an eye on when Jarvis Landry will make his return, hopefully sooner than later. So, in the meantime, let's check out the depth chart for the Browns, what they're going to be working with. Still waiting for Odell Beckham to come back after missing what's now been the first 2 weeks of the season. He's continuing to rehab. Jarvis Landry, he's going to be out for, in my opinion, at least 4 weeks. But I'm not a doctor. I don't have my PhD in that. I just got a lousy journalism degree. So you're missing your first 2 wide receivers right there. DPJ was pretty quiet in week 1. Week 2 came up a little bit, but had a costly fumble. It looked like it could be at least. Rashard Higgins has played well. And then Anthony Schwartz was quiet today, a little dormant after being very active in week 1. And then Davion Davis, the suspended wide receiver who is going to miss the first 2 weeks of the season, couldn't come a better time for that suspension to be lifted because the Browns definitely need some immediate help at the wide receiver position. I'm curious to see if they try to make any moves on the practice squad. That's some nitty-gritty stuff for extra support and depth in case someone else goes down in the future. But speaking of that, it does make me a little worried. What's your panic level over the wide receiver health after OBJ, I mean, my opinion, just not coming back as soon as maybe expected, but it's not my knee, so what am I to say? And then Jarvis Landry hurting his own knee. Where you at? Scale for me, 1 to 10. 1, not phased, won't lose a wink of sleep. 10, you're going to wake up tomorrow red-eye because you cannot stand the fact that DPJ and Rashard Higgins are now wide receiver 1 and 2. Personally, I'm going to put it at a 6. Okay, the reason being, it really doesn't help when Baker Mayfield, your quarterback, hurts his shoulder in the game. Granted, not a throwing shoulder, but you're also out with you're down your top 2 weapons. Mayfield's going to need some help if he's going to play through this shoulder injury. I bet we will never know the full severity of until the end of the season. So I'm at a 6. That puts me just above the midway point. But let me know where you're at in the comments. Browns fans, the Browns over club is in business. They are over 2 for 2 so far this season. So if you want to make some money on that, because I certainly put my bet on the over today, head over to chatsports.com/bet. Plug in that promo code Browns125. BetUS is going to hook you up with a 125% deposit bonus. What does that mean? You put $100 in, you got $225 to play with. Who knows? I bet the Browns are going to be decent favorites next week against the Bears, although Chicago did pick up their first win of the season against the Cincinnati Bengals in week 2. So let me know what you're thinking, though. Why don't you go ahead and sign up right now at BetUS. All the information you need is in the comments, is right here at chatsports.com/bet Browns125. All right, let's talk about the defense now. Let's give some love to that side of the football because it's just as important, of course. And the defense, in my opinion, it looked better, okay? And that's tough to have your first game of the season come against the reigning AFC champs and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's kind of setting you up for a bit of an overreaction and disaster, but I still think there's a lot of improvements that need to be made if the Browns are going to be serious contenders, all right? Davis Mills comes in relief for TYROD Taylor. I just feel bad for Taylor because I've talked, with friends and family that Taylor's a quarterback that can win you games, and he had the Texans in this game in the first half, but a hamstring injury takes him out. Davis Mills, the third-round pick from this draft, enters the game, and leads them on that one great 75-yard, I think, touchdown drive, 2-yard touchdown throw to Brandon Cooks to make it a close game in the fourth quarter. But he definitely didn't, look like a concrete franchise future for the Texans. But it's tough for Taylor. Last year, he goes down in week 2 after a punctured lung from a team doctor. That was just weird. And then, of course, he was in front of Baker after suffering concussion. He goes down, and then he's just out for the rest of the season, and the rest is history. So, best of wishes to TYROD Taylor. Great player. Everyone loves him across the league, I'm pretty sure. So hopefully he can get better soon. Meanwhile, linebacker Malcolm Smith, he had a little banged-up moment for a second there, left but came back. But he filled in after Anthony Walker was placed on IR earlier this week, and pretty good start for him, all right? Had an interception, a couple of tackles. He was flying around the field. I like Smith's performance a lot. Hopefully he can stay healthy, though, because it looked like for a second the Browns were about to lose their first string and second string middle linebacker. Push over the depth chart here, Coop, and you check out what the Browns are working with. I always said this was one of the weak spots on this Browns roster that's littered with talent, but the linebackers always had me a little cautious and a little worrisome. And if they're going to start getting banged up, I'm going to get even more worrisome. Haven't seen as much JOK highlights as I would have liked to have seen after just the preseason, but then again, that's the preseason. Sometimes you can overreact, guilty as charged. But I think he's still going to be a great player for the Browns, who will probably find himself in a starting role at some point if these injuries continue to plague the linebackers. Speaking of injuries, and this time some good news. Grant Delpit, who missed all of last season with an Achilles injury, 2020 second-round draft pick, makes his NFL, not even preseason, but NFL debut today and did not disappoint. A strip sack on Davis Mills, a couple near interceptions, some tackles. Delpit looked like someone who's going to be competing for a starting job as soon as next week after coming in relief for also Roddy Harrison. I'm going to put this out here. after being ejected in the first quarter of the Chiefs game last week, looked pretty good this week. So this Browns secondary, I think especially in the back end, starting to take some more form. But who is the most impressive player on the defense today? I don't know how you can not go with Delpit. It's just a great story, okay? Because after missing the first year of his career, I'm getting lost my thoughts here. After missing all of last year, hamstring injuries during the preseason and training camp this year, it's just been a great story, and it's just getting a little better now that he's not only on the field, but he is contributing on the field. Myles Garrett, I don't expect to see many guesses or some answers for him because he was relatively quiet today, which doesn't bother me, honestly, because if you're going to be quiet and the defense can still churn out a win, it shows that this team is pretty balanced, okay? So not a ton to worry about from that standpoint, but overall pretty good right there on the Browns defense to get things together. And all in all, even without their best player, Myles Garrett, putting up big numbers, still putting up good stats and holding this Texans offense that I think is better than people give them credit for. Good running back committee. Brandon Cooks, the most underappreciated wide receiver in the NFL. So all in all, pretty good stuff right there. Nick Chubb, you got to love this guy because week in and week out, he has just these great shining moments when you need a big run, a big first down. You just say, hey, Chubb, can you do it? And he's like, I got you. And that's what he did. 8.6 yards a carry, a touchdown run, nearly eclipsed 100 yards. Chubb, once again, just showing that he is one of the best backs in the NFL and worth every penny of that contract extension he got earlier this preseason. And some other news of some lesser names, but still a pretty great performance from Demetric Felton. Yeah, everyone knows him, right? Household name in Ohio, no doubt about it. No, this is a 6th-round pick from this past draft class, and the 23-year-old former UCLA Bruin got his touchdown, first touchdown of his career on a nice touchdown pass, just maneuvering his way around the defense. And Felton is further back on the depth chart. He's probably in that 4th spot in the running back depth chart right now, but who knows? After today's game, he may shoot himself up a little bit and compete for some more playing time, and he's a huge contributor on special teams too. He's always making people miss on punt returns, kick returns, wherever you want to put him, he can do a great job in that facet. So Demetric Felton is a name not to just watch for week in and week out, but just someone to keep an eye on for the years to come, because a 6th-round pick that can score in their second week of the season is someone who I think may have a good chance of sticking around for a while. Guys, if you are excited after this Week 2 victory and pumped about the Browns picking up their first win of the season, which I know you are, then go ahead and subscribe right now to the Browns Report, because it's simple as this. Every single subscription we get equals 1/10 of a victory. I don't make up the numbers. That's just science. So the more subscriptions we get, it's clinically proven, and this is my doctor talk here, that the Browns will get more wins this season. Talked to head coach Stefanski this morning. He said, guarantee it, Matthew. So go ahead and subscribe right now if you want the Browns to win. If you don't, I don't know. Maybe you're a communist.